5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
This is the Culture Clash.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Welcome, everybody, to the latest episode of Culture Clash here on the Fandom Podcast Network. We're kind of live. I'm half dead. I think Kevin's probably the more lively one of us too, but there's reasons for that. We don't need to go into explanation, but we got a big show for you here on Culture Clash. We're going to be talking about Andor. It's here. We got a lot of fun and exciting things to talk about. We got some news out of Star Wars Celebration. We got a new Predator trailer. Even got a little things in buy it, stream it, unearn, and see it. But first, before we do anything else, too, if you see what's on the screen right there, you're going to see the nice big QR code. Give that a scan because it's going to take you to the homepage of the audio podcast of the Fandom Podcast Network at fpnet.podbean.com. Scan it. It'll take you right to it. And I'm going to bring in somebody who knows a little bit about scanning that QR code. He's the co-founder of the Fandom Podcast Network. And I have a feeling, too, and we're going to discuss this, he might be a little more clowny than usual. Is the one and only Kevin Reitzel.
What's going on, buddy? Good to see you. I'm almost live.
We're kind of half in there. By next week, we'll be back to fully live. Kevin, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about here, including Andor season 2 dropping, which hey, we're excited. But before we get into any of the fun stuff that's happening in fandom, you went on a little Raider Nerd adventure, and I'm proud of you because you faced a fear on your Raider Nerd adventure.
Not really a big fear of mine, but a fear of many, and that is the fear of clowns. My wife and I just celebrated our third wedding anniversary, and we've been wanting to go up to Reno to visit our good friends Jen and her husband Dave, because they were at our wedding in Vegas, and I've known Jen for a very, very long time, and she's been a contributor here on the podcast, been on several podcasts. And but my wife is a big horror fan. She has a bucket list item. She's been wanting to stay at the infamous Clown Motel that's in Tonopah, northern Nevada. It's if you're to drive from Reno to Vegas, you'll go through that city, and there's a famous Clown Motel there. And it's run down a little bit, and there's clowns everywhere, and all the different rooms all have clowns. And so I have a couple pictures I'll share with you guys here. This is the outside of the Clown Motel here, if you're looking at the YouTube video here. And we asked, so when you make your reservations, you have to do it directly through the Clown Motel website. You can choose the rooms that you want to stay in if they're available. You can choose normal rooms with no clowns, or you can choose the clowniest of clown rooms. And this is our room here. We chose the clowniest of clown rooms. And if you can see the picture here, it's a Pano version of our hotel here. You can see many different clowns, Pan's Labyrinth version over there. You can see an It version a little bit further down there. All of our bedspread with skulls, and then at night when you turn off the lights, you can turn on a black light, and everything that's black light available pops open. You can look at that as well. And here's our little mascot that we brought with us here. We got this, I think, as during the Halloween season, and this is our little clown mascot that we brought with us from Santa Barbara.
I just want to dye your hair red, and I can see the resemblance.
Yes, his name is Georgie, by the way. We call him Georgie, and he does this little evil laugh when you squeeze a button in his hand. And there's the office behind him off to the right. And here's a wide view of the hotel there. This is an old mining town, and to the right of this picture, there is a graveyard where between 1901 and 1911. Victims of a mining disaster. They had a fire cave-in. Many were killed, and also many more were killed because they had their own town plague. And so this hotel had been there for like a long time, or versions of it. And parts of the hotel is haunted as well as the graveyard. And a lot of paranormal, like TV shows, have come and done stuff here. We didn't experience anything out of the ordinary. We did take a ghost tour, kind of, with this guy that knows the history of the area very well the night that we stayed. And this is the clown store that's in, or the clown display that's in the clown store along with the lobby. And people from all over the world donated clowns. And you see a lot of people have their names. And this is a picture in the bedroom. And this is Aaron outside of the room here on Bloody Boulevard, which is they named the aisle there. And you can see that was the entrance to our clown hotel room. That's the bathroom there. And yeah, there's a big Ronald McDonald in the front of the door. And Erin bought a Clown Motel hoodie. I did as well. I got mine in black. She got hers in blue. And
just in real quick, the reason why you didn't have any ghost experiences is I think the ghosts are probably more scared of your wife than you guys are of the ghosts.
Yes, probably. But yeah, you can see it's a little bit of a tourist. People were just stopping by to take pictures that were driving through town. And by the way, if you ever go to Tenapa and you visit this place, 25 miles an hour, do not speed. I saw a cop pull 3 people over within an hour, the same cop. So make sure you do that. But and here's the store, or the back of the store. These are not for sale. These are all on display. And you can see the many different clowns that come from around the world. And these are more pictures of the hotel room and stuff. But yeah, there's a, like I said, there's a, here's a picture of the lobby, by the way. What's really cool is a lot of the art of the clowns around the houses and on the doors, and so they're all done by artists that they either hired or they donated their time. So there's a lot of art that's actually put into this clown motel, as creepy as it sounds. And they get a lot of people that order stuff online, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. So highly recommend it.
I have one very important question about the Clown Motel.
Yes,
it is not a true clown motel unless somewhere inside there was a Krusty the Clown.
There was a painting of a Krusty the Clown, and it's funny that you say that, Kyle, as I go through the pictures here. There was actually, here's the graveyard, by the way, the 10-part graveyard. There was a Ronald McDonald, as you saw in the pictures. There was also Bozo the Clown, and one of the rooms had Heath Ledger's Joker from Batman 2, basically. There was a Krusty. I think someone did like either a Lego sculpture of Krusty or something like that. I can't remember. But yeah, so there you go.
Well, I am glad you survived your experience. I was really hoping you'd come back with more of a red nose and red hair, but that's.
I asked Aaron. They were selling clown noses like in 2-packs, and I asked Aaron, do you want to wear these 2 and take a picture? She's like, no, I'm not going that far. Come on. She's like, no.
I'm gonna have to have a talk with the lovely Aaron Gill.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. Well, I'm so glad you survived your clown experience. I'm glad you're back here to be on Culture Clash with me to talk Andor. And speaking of Andor, let's talk a little Andor season 2. This is our first episode covering all things Andor season 2. We've got a lot to talk about. But Kevin, I found something very interesting. And correct me if I'm wrong. Disney has never put out a list of the runtime of episodes before, have they?
No, they have not. This is the first time. I mean, obviously, I think these are pretty accurate regarding the first 3, if I remember correctly. But yeah, they normally don't put runtimes because a lot of the runtimes are usually like 35 minutes or less. But as you see from the runtimes here on the video, and you can search these on the internet, the shortest one I see there is 42 minutes. Yeah. So
they
go between 42 and 54 minutes each. So yeah.
And of course, too, on a very interesting release schedule for Disney Plus, as they'll be doing these over a 4-week span in 3-episode arcs, which I think is more of a Tony Gilroy decision than anything like that. So we will be covering these episodes. We'll talk about the episodes, but we're going to be covering as a whole as an arc.
Yeah, kind of like a mini movie, like a part, because usually movies have like an act 1, act 2, and act 3. So yeah.
Well, before we get into our Andor coverage and some of the regular stuff here on Culture Clash, we need to talk about what's happening around the Fandom Podcast Network, because we got some fun stuff that's come out recently, and as well as some stuff coming out soon that we're very excited about. So let's talk about a few things. And first and foremost, we've got to shout out our guys over at What a Piece of Junk on the crew of the Drunken Gungan. They will be covering Andor in their own unique style for us as well. So you'll be getting a double dose of Andor here on the Fandom Podcast Network. Those episodes will start dropping soon. I would highly suggest you check out their most recent episode, which covered a lot of the things that happened at Star Wars Celebration. Some interesting announcements there. We're going to be talking about those ourselves here in a little bit.
Yeah, the What a Piece of Junk guys are our official Star Wars podcast on the network.
Time Warp's been a little busy. Of course, we are into a new year, and that means we are covering a new year, and we are doing Time Warp 1990. Now, out right now, we have January, February, and March. And April will be coming out here this next week before the month of April ends. Some interesting things in April, Kevin. And I just want to say this real quick because we always seem like in time where we have 1 month where TV outweighs the movies. And this April 1990 really felt that way.
Yeah, I remember in '84, I felt like it was September because the '84 had a lot of bangers and new TV shows come out. But this month of April of 1990, big month for several debut TV shows like Twin Peaks, Wings, and In Living Color. Yeah, and then just to tease, there was a show that George Clooney was in where he grew his hair out and he rode a motorcycle. So if you want to know more about that, make sure you check out Time Warp 1990 April.
Yeah, and if you don't listen to it, I'm just going to say, homie, don't play that. So
yes, exactly.
And of course, too, Kevin, we've been a little busy over at the Union Federation because we returned to the Orville for a 10-part special series where we had a lot of the crew of the Union Fed and a special guest for a few episodes. But we had a lot of fun doing crew profiles on the Orville.
Yeah, we had a special guest, Alyssa Courtwright. She reached out to us because she saw our post on one of the Orville Facebook pages, and she's a huge Orville fan. We had her on for I think about 3 episodes, including the last one which covers all of the guest stars and Star Trek alumni. But yeah, we covered each episode. We covered each of the main crew members of the Orville. So if you're an Orville fan, make sure you check it out. It's the Orville USS Orville crew profiles.
Yeah. And I just want to throw a little tease out there because, the Orville's not running right now and there's really no Trek shows going on, but we got something planned over at the Union Federation. We're going to go back to our Discoville days because we're going to drive into a little Black Mirror USS Callister very soon on Union Federation. I think
my wife and I just did that double feature, by the way, Kyle, the double feature of the Callister.
I gotta ask, how did Erin like it?
She liked it. She loves dark stuff anyway, but I told her, I'm just going to watch these 2. I can't watch any more episodes of Dark Mirror. It's just too dark for me.
Yeah. Kevin, if it was Hallmark Mirror, Kevin would be all over it.
Yes, this is true. Yeah.
And we've been a little busy over at Couch Potato Theater too with a new concept that we're throwing into the mix every once in a while. Thanks to, of course, one of our former co-founders here at the Fandom Podcast Network. We've got to give Norman Lau some love for coming up with this idea. But Kevin, we're doing a little Be Kind and Rewind.
Yeah, Norm had a great concept. Instead of just doing regular Couch Potato Theater, let's do a CPT on some movies that we originally didn't like or the mass media or fans shunned. But for some reason or another, either we have or fans in general have come back around going, you know what, I'm beginning to find this rewatchable. And we recorded Green Lantern. We went back and talked about that, 2011 Green Lantern. And we shortly, we're going to have dropping John Carter from 2012. And then the next one we have scheduled is Be Kind Rewind, the A-Team from 2010.
Yep. And on that John Carter, too, very special guest, our good friend John Mosby joined us on that podcast. And with the A-Team, we're just still trying to find them because really no one else can help right now.
I got to give a shout out to Jen, by the way. I told her we were doing the A-Team. She's like, oh, I love the A-Team.
Oh, there we go. What's not to love? It's a great movie. That is coming soon on Couch Potato Theater, Be Kind and Rewind. And we got a few other ideas cooking there. And out this week, because it is the 20th anniversary of one of my all-time favorite, just watch it on cable, Couch Potato Theater. And Kevin, you were the one who brought it up. But a great fun popcorn action movie, Sahara, coming out in 2005, Kevin.
Yeah, celebrating its 20th anniversary. And we get into the reasons why we never got a sequel. It was very interesting. So make sure you check that out.
And coming up, we've been teasing this for a while. Things have kind of interfered with schedule and stuff like that. But we are spending the summer giving some love to the 1980s classic canon films. If you grew up in the 80s, you know exactly what we're talking about. And we're going to be kicking things off, Kevin. You're going to lead us on a two-movie Couch Potato Theater, American Ninja 1 and American Ninja 2.
This is true. And what's interesting is one of the films on that docket is Cobra. And Adam tagged me in a post that they are releasing a new 4K edition of Cobra coming out in July, I believe. So
I saw that. That thing is loaded.
So I'm gonna have to wait. We're gonna have to wait to do that podcast until I get my hands on that 4K.
Yeah, well, that seems fair. And 2, you're gonna get the girls of the Couch Potato Theater together, Kevin, because you're just one of the guys after all.
Yeah, just one of the guys celebrating its 40th anniversary with that famous reveal scene. We're going to discuss all of that. We just recently rewatched it, got it on Blu-ray, and we're going to talk about just one of the guys.
And I got to give a special shout out to our Type 40 podcast because the new season of Doctor Who has dropped. It's already 3 episodes in. I blinked and the TARDIS had moved around, but our good friend Dan Hadley and his crew on the Type 40 TARDIS and on that podcast and his channel on YouTube are just doing phenomenal work covering all things Doctor Who. Give Type 40 a listen. Find it on the YouTube channel as their YouTube channel as well. They do a phenomenal job covering all things Doctor Who. A new season is here. Going to be interested to see how people react to it, but a lot of good stuff happening around the Fandom Podcast Network. We are very excited for that. But guys, just a warning from this point on, spoiler alert. Not only are we going to be talking about Andor, we're going to be talking about some movies and buy it, stream it, or unsee it. And we're going to be talking about some news, and we might spoil a few things. So, guys, I'm just going to tell you right now, you have been officially warned. We are now in spoiler territory here on Culture Clash. And guys, we got a lot of things to talk about, but first and foremost, I think it's time for it.
Let's news.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've done a Let's News. Let's see if I can remember how to do this. But so obviously the big thing with Star Wars Celebration was just about a week ago now, I guess. It was in Japan, so it was a little bit hard to get all the news because of the time differences. But one of the biggest announcements to come out of Star Wars Celebration Japan was, of course, we knew Ryan Gosling had joined Star Wars, but they made it official. And he's going to be starring in the new film directed by Sean Levy, Star Wars Starfighter. Levy, who recently directed and produced Marvel's hit Deadpool and Wolverine, made a surprise appearance during the Mandalorian and Grogu panel, joining Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy and the chief creative officer David Filoni on stage to confirm his project for the live audience at Star Wars Celebration Japan. One of the several theatrical projects still in development from Lucasfilm, including films by Shamir Obeid-Chinoy, James Mangold, Taika Waititi, and a new trilogy by Simon Kinberg, Levy's film Star Wars Starfighter will star Gosling and go into production starting this fall. It is set approximately 5 years after the events of Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. Gosling will play a brand new character teased by the actor's appearance on stage. Kevin, right now this movie is scheduled to arrive in theaters for Memorial Day 2027. Are we excited?
Yes, I did want to, before I talk about that though, so the Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, that is supposed to be the Rey movie, which keeps getting delayed. James Mangold is supposed to be the Dawn of the Jedi, old school Jedi, 10,000 years ago, whatever. Taika Waititi, have no idea what's going on with that. And this trilogy by Simon Kinberg, no idea what that's about either. And then, so the Star Wars Starfighter thing is interesting because I think they're just like, okay, we're not doing the Patty Jenkins Rogue Squadron. We're just going to do Starfighter. We got a big name. We got a big director. And I think this was pushed forward for a few reasons. First of all, we have to have some movie for the 50th anniversary of Star Wars. We cannot go this far without having another. The last movie, Rise of Skywalker, 2019, right?
Yeah. It's been a while.
Yeah. So they're like, let's do that. And Sean Levy was available to start his film. And then they got, obviously the big star of Gosling to be the big star of this. So they decided, let's just let's put everything in. We got to get a film out for next year. We have to, or 2 years actually. So it's sad that we still have to wait another 2 years, but we're gonna have. Well, no, we're gonna have the Grogu Mandalorian.
Yeah, Grogu Mando is 2026.
Yeah, so at least we'll have that anyway. So, but yeah, I think that's what I'm thinking. I'm kind of bummed about the time frame. It's because it takes place after the sequel trilogy, but I don't know. Maybe it'll help wash that taste out of my mouth for that. But I was kind of hoping we'd get something, in between. Maybe in the Mando verse, would have been better. So.
I only require one thing from this movie, Kevin. Ryan Gosling is in a scene wearing the driver jacket.
Not going to happen, but I would love it.
Well,
are you excited?
What's that?
Are you excited?
I love Levy. Gosling is always good. I'm excited for the concept. I think they're having enough space after the Rise of Skywalker to where they can do something kind of fresh and new with it. So let's see what they do with it. I know some people are worried about Levy because he's mostly famous for the Deadpool, so they're worried about, is this going to be a little comedic? But you know what? Star Wars needs to have a little lightheartedness in it too. I don't think it's going to be comedic, but I think with Gosling does have some comedy chops, so he could have some light moments.
It needs to be fun, and I think so far we seem to have the right ingredients for that. So
yeah, well, so we're going to see what's going to happen, but. As I said, Star Wars Celebration did take place over in Japan. Again, a little hard to follow the news because of the time difference, but there were a few interesting tidbits that dropped, including a new animated series, Maul Shadow Lord, with Sam Witwer coming back to voice Darth Maul. It's a new animated series following Darth Maul's rise as a criminal syndicate leader after the Clone Wars. It is slated to come out in 2026. I'm curious to see if we'll have any ties to Solo with this, Kevin.
That's the big question. I hope there is. I would really love to see an animated version of Kira. And, I like the title Shadow Lord because not a lot of people know that, Darth Maul is pulling strings here. So I hope there is tied to Solo because I love that movie. I really do.
Yeah, I do too. I think it deserves a sequel or some kind of continuation. I'd much rather see something in live action. I'm going to be honest with you. Star Wars animation, I'm kind of outside of Visions, but we'll get to that in a minute. I'm ready for more live action. So, but I'll take what I can get here, and I love Sam Witwer, so I'm going to be definitely in. Also, they did drop from The Mandalorian and Grogu new footage and set photos teasing Rada the Hutt, Baby Yoda, Grogu's Force abilities, and some classic Star Wars action. These kind of snuck out on the internet for a short period of time before they all got pulled, Kevin.
Yeah, these were, I guess, what they call not teaser reels. What do they call it?
Production shots.
Nah, it's something else. But yeah, people recorded them on their phone and posted them and stuff. So I got a chance to see one of those, and it does look cool. It looks fun. I'm all in for Mando and Grogu anyway. I love the time period that it's into, and I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Also, Ahsoka Season 2, Dave Filoni has confirmed that production would begin soon, and that Hayden Christensen will be returning as Anakin Skywalker in Ahsoka Season 2. I'm excited. I loved Ahsoka Season 1. Obviously, we're going to have the big thing with the recasting, but I think they chose a brilliant actor for that as well. But
are you talking about Baylan Skull? Yes.
Yeah, Baylan Skull, yes.
Recasting Baylan Skull, yeah.
But I'm excited for Ahsoka Season 2. But Kevin, and I know we have a little bit different opinion here, but Star Wars Visions Volume 3, they gave a first look off, and a Vision spinoff is announced from one of the most popular shorts of the first season of Star Wars Vision, which was The Ninth Jedi. And they're going to be doing a little bit of a spinoff on that. Not a lot of details there, but they're all going back to the Japanese style animation instead of the international flavor that Vision Season 2 had. I love this. I love the anthology aspect of it. I love seeing the animation styles. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, Kevin, but I like the fact for me, Visions also goes beyond the Star Wars universe, the box of the Skywalker side of the Star Wars universe, and explores other ideas within the universe. And that's what I'm most excited about with Visions.
Yeah, I don't know what's canon in that stuff. I don't, it doesn't, and none of it feels canon to me because of reasons. And I'm glad you like it, but it's not for me. I'm going to be passing.
But so, and then of course, lastly too, it was announced Star Wars Celebration will be back in the United States, in your neck of the woods yet again in 2027, Kevin.
Celebrating the 50th anniversary of Star Wars. I'm not surprised that it's back in the LA area, this time in Los Angeles Convention Center, not the Anaheim Convention Center. And I believe the Los Angeles Convention Center has gone through a big retro or change or something. Last time I was there for some convention. I can't remember what it was, but yeah, I actually went to that convention to Celebration 4 when it was there. It was in 2006, right before I moved to Georgia. So yeah.
Well, the last celebration I went to was not the last one in Orlando, but the one before that.
Wait. You actually went to a celebration?
Yeah, I bet. I want to say it was like the 2012, 2014 one. It was actually at a time frame where I wasn't in the middle of tax season, because I think it was actually like in May. So I actually went. They had the really cool Boba Fett poster
That was Celebration 5. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the one I did not go to, and it seems like the Celebration organizers are determined to never have you go to another Celebration again because they always schedule it in April.
Yeah, and then they're skipping Florida, and I kind of know why they're skipping Florida, but it's a little frustrating. But that's enough on the Star Wars stuff because Kevin, something else I am been very excited about for a long time since it was announced that it was happening. Dropped its first trailer this week. Predator Badlands by the same people who did Prey. Kevin, I love this trailer. I am loving the concept that they're doing with this trailer.
Tell me the concept. You tell me what concept did you get from it?
I got that we're seeing a younger Predator going through like the trials that he might have to go through to maybe become whatever within the Predator culture, becoming a full-on warrior.
Yeah.
In the Predator. That's the impression that I kind of got from this because and I'm going to bring it up on screen now. We've got a very younger, almost like teenage looking Predator here. And it looks like he crash lands on some planet. I've seen Elle Fanning in this. She plays an android, apparently a Wayland Yutani android from what I've read online, whether that's true or not. But if the concept that they're going with here, and they haven't revealed much, but it just seems like you've got this idea of this young Predator who's maybe going through like some kind of trials or something like that. And if we're going to get a look more behind the scenes at some of the Predator culture, I'm all for that because I think that's a very untapped thing. And the movie itself just looked the trailer looked phenomenal to me, Kevin.
Yeah, I'm not, something's not sitting right with me. I'm not sure why. Elle Fanning, I'm fine with. I'm wondering if we're going to get another male lead ever again, though, for a Predator movie. Not, that I don't like the ladies that we have there, but I was, and the reason why I say that, I was kind of hoping. I know it was kind of maybe fan driven, but I really wanted to get like a samurai version fighting. The guy that was in whatchamacallit TV show, the Shogun, yeah, that actor, and he was also in John Wick 4. I like that concept better. I'd rather get like an actual warrior type person, that's been fighting, and I don't know what the Fanning girl's character is if she's an android, and Derek made an interesting point. I want to bring it up with you that he was tired of humans always fighting these predators. He wanted to see like predator on other weird creature, insert whatever weird creature, alien, not necessarily from the Aliens universe. And I replied saying, I see why they're doing it, because you want to make the hero-y type person that's fighting the predator relatable, so they have to be human. And I don't want to watch a Predator movie where you hear a bunch of grunts and growls the whole time, So I don't know. What do you think, Kyle? Is this what you wanted, or did you want to kind of see something different like I did?
This wasn't what I was expecting. Let me put it that way. But I'm liking what I'm seeing here, and I have a lot of trust in Trachtenberg, who did Prey. I think what the goal is with Trachtenberg is, and from what interviews I've heard with him, is he's going to get kind of handed if Prey does, or this does well, because this is going to the theaters. Unlike Prey, this is going to the theaters. And this is going to have an IMAX.
I wish Prey got a release in the theaters. Ugh.
But if this succeeds and Trachtenberg really gets handed the reins, because he's talked about doing a samurai type thing in that time period, as well as a few other ideas he's had. I think there's still a lot more to this movie that we don't know about. So I mean, this is just an early sizzle teaser trailer. So I don't really want to know a lot more about this movie, to be honest with you. I want to go into this and be surprised, because Prey surprised me so much, and I think that was one of the reasons why I liked it so much.
Well, I hope that if this is going to be a Wayland Yutani android character, I hope it's much more interesting, the whole David thing that we got through Prometheus and Covenant.
Yeah, well, I trust these guys a lot more than I do Ridley at this point. So.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
But guys, let's kind of move on here. That wraps up the news. Time to get into our main topic.
Star Wars.
Andor. Kevin is very prepared today. That is right. It is time to talk Star Wars Andor Season 2. again, we're going to be covering the first 3 episodes of this, but we're going to talk about it as an arc because I just that's how we're watching it, and I think that's what's been so interesting about this particular season is how they're going to present it, and I think it's going to be interesting in how we discuss it as podcasters as we go forward. Because I know some podcasters who are covering it episode by episode, and others covering it in the arc. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out across the podcast nation. But let's talk about Andor season 2. Kevin, we've been excited this for a long time. It's been a long time coming. I didn't realize just how long it'd been since season 1 ended. It's almost been 2 years.
2022, right?
Yeah,
I think it was.
well, I guess, COVID delay, writer strike delays, other things that have happened, but
Yeah.
it is finally here, and I am excited. We're going to be talking everything that's happened. So one last spoiler warning. We are about to dive into the first 3 episodes of Andor. We are not going to hold anything back. If you have not watched it yet, go back, finish watching the episodes, and then join us, whether here it's on YouTube or on the audio version of this show on our podcast feed. But we got a lot of interesting things to talk about. Andor is here, so let's get into it. Kevin, let's kick off some things with some plot synopsis. I'll kind of give us the first episode synopsis. 1 year later, Rebel agent Cassian Andor Diego Luna goes undercover as a test pilot to steal an experimental TIE Avenger, successfully flying the Imperial craft to a jungle moon. Do we really want to say successfully, Kevin? and if you wouldn't mind, by the way, would you kind of flip through some of the slides for me as I'm reading the plot synopsis?
You got it, brother.
Yep. But once at the rendezvous point, Cassian finds himself caught in the crossfire of a conflict erupting between stranded rebels from Maya Pay Brigade. I think a desperate rebel cell.
It's Maya Pay Brigade.
Yeah, Maya Pay Brigade. Yeah. Meanwhile, B2EMO, Bix, Kalin, Brasso, and Wilmon Pak have eked out a humble life hidden among the farmers of the agricultural world of Mina Rao. And while Senator Mon Mothma and Perrin Firtha prepare for their daughter's wedding on Chandrila, Director Krennic, an ambitious and loyal servant of the Empire, hosts a secret meeting with key members of the Imperial Security Bureau to discuss the planet of Gorham. Kevin, that is the plot for episode 1. Would you care to dive us into episode 2?
All right. Episode 2 is Sagrona Teena. The Empire arrives on Mina Rao, endangering Bix Kayleen, Brasso, and Wilmon Pak, who are on the run after the violent insurrection on Ferrix. On Coruscant, Imperial Security Bureau Supervisor Deidre Miro frets about a new assignment that will take her to Gorman, while her partner, Cyril, continues to climb the ladder at the Bureau of Standards. On Chandrila, Senator Mon Mothma's cover story for funding the rebellion is jeopardized when her friend and confidant, Tay Kolma, exhibits unpredictable behavior in the face of a personal strife. Meanwhile, Andor plots to escape his captors.
And then finally, we have episode 3, Harvest. Cassian Andor struggles to make contact with Coruscant, barely maintaining control of the temperamental TIE Avenger. Amino Rao, Bix Kalian, Brasso, and Wilmon plan to evade their Imperial inspection using forged emergency work orders. But their gambit falls apart as the Imperials arrive before sundown, taking Brasso into custody, while Bix and Wilmon contend with officers invading their home. Meanwhile, on Chandrila, Mon Mothma's daughter's wedding ends in a raucous reception and the gift of a priceless historical artifact delivered by Luthen Rao and Kayla Marquet. And on Coruscant, Cyril Karn and Supervisor Deidre Mero enjoy an awkward dinner of their own with a special guest, Eden Karn, Cyril's mother. Yeah, awkward is a good word for that, Kevin. So that we have our 3-episode arc for Andor of the first 3 episodes. A little instant reaction here, Kevin. What were your thoughts on this first arc and these first episodes of Andor?
Very interesting how it started with him and the test pilot and stealing the ship, which I thought was really cool. And then him crash landing or landing on a planet expecting to meet someone, and that didn't quite work out. By the way, we find out later that that planet looks like a lot like Yavin 4. So I'm guessing Andor is going to have a little hand on deciding where the Rebel base is going to be going. So That's interesting. So regarding the whole thing with Bix and everything like that, that was an interesting little setup there. I was forgetting while that they were all on the run because of what happened on Ferrix, and then of course what ends up happening there. And the whole thing with Mon Mothma, I find very fascinating because there's a lot of political intrigue going there, and her trying to get funded for what she needs for the rebellion side of things, yet she has to go through this fixed marriage sort of thing to get the support that she wants. And there's a lot of political. I love how there's always like a party type situation, marriage or whatever, and there's always a lot of like undercurrent of shenanigan planning happening, and I got a lot of that out there. I found it overall refreshing just to be able to watch a little mini Andor movie back to back to back. It's darker Star Wars. We'll get into that later, but I like that. I just, before I forget, Kyle, I want to give complete props to the costume designer. Is phenomenal. Oh my God, especially the party scene with on Chandrilla, but also the officers and everything. It's just the costumes are just phenomenal.
Well, it's the entire look of the show. I mean, this show just has a phenomenal look to it. Tony Gilroy has done phenomenal work with season 1, and he's continuing it with season 2. I think for me, when I watched these first 3 episodes, and it's probably because I hadn't watched Andor in a bit, I had forgotten how much Andor bounces around with the different storylines that are going on. And so it took me a little bit to get into that, because I'll be honest with you, some of the storylines weren't as interesting to me as other ones were. Not that they don't pay off, because I found that something I had with Andor season 1 as well.
Yeah, it's like you don't get the payoff yet, so you're having to kind of watch them building the pieces a little bit, so therefore it's not a payoff. You're like, what's going on,
But I got to give Tony Gilroy this, and the writers and creators, some interesting choices here with how they presented some things. That whole Imperial Security Council meeting, like old school, like 60s movie about that planet, was just like, what are they doing here
with the spiders and all that? And what was interesting about that scene too is everyone at the table that was there, and you get Krennic, right?
Yeah,
but I love that Krennic and Deidre, he kind of pulls Deidre over because he sees something in her, and you can kind of tell. I think she's going to be put in a powerful yet tough situation that she's going to have to deal with. You feel, she's going to have to make some orders. People are probably going to have to die. But I love seeing Krennic back, man. I love that. I thought that was great.
Yeah, Ben Mendelsohn nails that character. I'm so excited.
God, he's so good. And what's funny? It's mostly because of that role, and then of course him being the villain in the movie of Ready Player One, where I've kind of gone back and like checked stuff out that he's been in, and there's a movie called, I think it was Animal Kingdom, an Australian film that he did that Erin, my wife, of course, being Australian, was very familiar with. And he wasn't a villain in that, but he was very good in that. And I just love him as Krennic.
A few other interesting things to note, Kevin, and I want to just throw these out there before we get into our main topic. So, not enough Luthen Rao for me. Needed more Luthen.
Yeah, I think we will, but I know what you mean. Yeah.
Mon Mothma, I'm just going to throw my digits out there for you if you ever change your mind, because you were looking great in these episodes. You were working the wedding look.
Let's just say, Kyle, we are crushing on Mon Mothma. Guinevere O'Reilly is just beautiful. And the way they dress her up is just phenomenal. She's gorgeous.
And I'm starting to develop a theory, Kevin, and I just want to see if you maybe are on the wavelength, and same wavelength as me, because your wife always says we share a brain. And Andor's droid, B.02
Yeah.
Why do I have a feeling there's going to be some part of him that's going to end up in K2SO? That's going to be one of these things that some of his personality traits.
I hadn't considered that, but I like that. Kind of like the way that what's his name droid in Solo became part of the Falcon, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I like that. I would love that. That'd be cool. Yeah, I like that. Okay.
It just feels like that's where we're kind of headed, and that makes sense with the K2 and B2 and all that. So it'll be interesting to see I am excited to see what's going to happen. But you mentioned it, Kevin, too. I like having these arcs. It makes it a little tough to get them all watched at the same time in time for the podcast. But I'm glad this show is not coming out on just a weekly basis, because I think it would. That was the one knock I had on season 1, is that I wasn't getting enough every week because of the pacing of Andor.
You mentioned that we could use more Andor, but the whole story arc that we got mostly in episode 2. I think it was episode 2, where he crash lands on what we now know as Yavin, and there's these tribes that are kind of like at each other's throats. I'm wondering if we're getting a payoff on that, other than the fact that he's going to probably recommend Yavin as the secret rebel base. But those people are still going to be there. So I think, anyway, I'm kind of wondering if we're going to get a payoff with that.
Not the smartest group of rebels. Let's just put it that way.
No.
Well, guys, we got a little Star Wars trivia to talk about. So I dug into the Star Wars lore and found some interesting trivia and especially some behind the scenes stuff for these first few episodes of Andor. Mr. Wright, would you care to help me out and help me read some of this trivia if you want to kick things off for us?
Will do. Number 1, in addition to their home base at Pinewood Studios, Andor Season 2 returned to Longcross Studios in Surrey, England, last used for the Millennium Falcon Octu Island Library Tree and Canto Bight Casino entrance, sets built for 2017 Star Wars The Last Jedi.
And up next, this is one of my favorite parts of the first arc. Was I love this TIE Avenger. The TIE Avenger prototype design was in part initially inspired by Kylo Ren's TIE Whisper from Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. The TIE Avenger was first featured in the 1994 TIE Fighter computer game from LucasArts.
And by the way, real quick, then used again in the Decipher Star Wars card game.
Yeah, there you go. Well, the Decipher Star Wars card game used everything. So.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah. So the next one, number 3, the hippo-like Yavinian Dudar creature that attacks the Mayape rebels was named after its designer, Alexander Dudar.
Yeah, the hippo had a nice meal during this too. So I'm just saying. Speaking of, though, we were talking about Mon Mothma earlier. The wedding dance to season 1's digestic synth pop track Nymos was among the last shot for Andor season 2 in January 2024. Some of the wedding guest speeders were reused from production on The Acolyte, a series that had previously reused some of the Andor season 1 speeders during the shooting. And hundreds of costumes, including jewelry and headwear, were created for the extras populating the Chandalorian wedding sequence. You mentioned that earlier, Kevin, how great that costuming was. They went all out here.
Can I just mention, I love seeing Mon Mothma just get into the rave and dance, because you can see how stressed she is,
Yeah.
Especially the discussion she has with her daughter, saying, "You don't have to do this. You really don't." And we get the feeling we're going to see something happen to where she's probably going to have to leave her family, or her family's taken away.
Yeah, this is going to not have a great ending. I agree with you on that, Kevin. Yeah. But now I want to ask you too, real quick, while we're talking about this scene. Were you getting a little bit of a Matrix rave vibe from this scene at the very end in episode 3? It's like, yeah, I feel like they kind of pulled part of this from.
Was that from Matrix 2 or 3?
Yeah, Matrix 2.
Yeah. No, I didn't think about that, but now I see why you have, and it makes sense. I don't know. I thought it was interesting to kind of see this type of celebration in Star Wars, and I'm glad that we did. I mean, when it comes to party scenes in Star Wars, what do we have to pull from? The Yub Yub dance. What else?
Jabba's Palace. Jabba's Palace.
Yeah, so we don't have a lot of. I liked it. It felt contemporary, which I like too. I could see people of Chandrila partying, and I love that they kind of gave this cool, interesting ceremony of how they celebrate their weddings and stuff like that. So yeah, obviously they drink a lot and rave.
Oh, absolutely. Well, Kevin, we care enlighten us on the last piece of trivia we have.
The TIE Avenger prototype that Cassian Andor steals was a rare full interior and exterior TIE fighter set built. It could support its own weight on 4 points of its lower wings. So what I'm wondering here, Kyle, is like, I feel like they used the what do you call it? Not the round, the what do you
Like
call
the
it?
gyroscope thing.
No. What do they call it? The thing they filmed the Mandalorian in.
Oh, the volume.
The volume, like a volume type set where they could, put the blue, thing behind you and you can project whatever you want. Because I can't believe that they would take this set apart and then put it somewhere in a jungle. I think that they got very clever about that. And you could tell it's a freaking whole-on starfighter they built. That would be great for a future, photo op at a celebration. Just saying.
Yeah. There. Are you listening, guys? Well, that might wrap up the trivia, but we aren't done yet. No, we got some Easter eggs too, because Andor had some fun stuff here. So let's dive into those. And one of the big ones, Kevin, I talked about this a little earlier with the meeting, but Andor Season 2 is setting up the Gorman Massacre from Star Wars Legends. Surprisingly, the Gorman Massacre hasn't yet been shown on the Star Wars screen, despite it being a pivotal event in the history of the Rebellion. First established in Legends, this was one of the key events leading to the birth of the Rebel Alliance, one of the Empire's worst atrocities. It seems this bloody event may finally make an appearance in Andor Season 2. Kevin, you know a lot more about Legends than I do. I want to say that. This is a big thing now.
I can't remember the details, to be perfectly honest with you. But regarding what we have seen in the episode, Kyle, is we get the big boardroom with all of the Imperials, led by Krennic, right? And they're talking about the materials that they need from Gorman, right?
Yes.
That's the same place we're talking about, right?
Yeah. That's
and
what we're talking about.
How they're going to have to displace people. This is a big deal. Like I said, I didn't, Wikipedia it or anything, so I don't have it fresh in my mind. I may do that later though. But I love that they're pulling from this though, because, one of the things that this series and the last episode of these 3 ones that we'll get into is that you have to show how bad and horrible the Empire was to people in general, especially people on the Outer Rim, people where they needed resources from. Oh, I need your planet. They just went in and took it. And if there was any resistance, they were killed or put as slaves. And this is what Andor Season 2 is going to showcase. We get it heavily influenced throughout the original trilogy and, through what we've seen in the obviously the sequel trilogy, and, Clone Wars did a great job with that, showcasing a lot of stuff. But I feel like Andor's really going to show you how nasty the Empire can be, especially when it comes to certain leaders of the Empire, so.
Well, Kevin, I'm going to let you talk about the next Easter egg, because the other thing that is starting to happen with Andor Season 2, which is to be expected, is more connections to Rogue One.
Number 2, did you spot the Stardust insignia in Krennic's meeting? This subtle detail confirms Krennic's true focus. During Director Krennic's meeting in Andor Season 2, Episode 1, the insignia for Project Stardust, a code name for the Death Star project, can be seen on one officer's uniform. This is a nod towards that Krennic's true intentions are with this meeting and throughout the appearance of Andor Season 2. Obviously, we need stuff for the Death Star. And it's apparently going on a slow pace, which is why he goes after someone in in Rogue One to speed up the pace.
I think this is one of the more things I'm really excited about with this run of Andor 2 is as we get closer in the connections it's going to make to Rogue One.
Okay, so I got a question then.
Yep.
So Andor Season 2, I don't know if it'll address it, but when does that? Because when you show the scene of Krennic going to find what's her name's father, Urso's family, because they're hiding away. So that has to be around this time, right? Because they need to get him back to continue the production of it, because then that's where he puts in this fatal flaw, and then the Stardust is obviously a name that has already been out there because there's a patch on that guy's shoulder. So that means Urso is already reluctantly working on the Death Star right now, right?
Yeah, that's my thinking, because what they have said all along with the final arc of this season of Andor, which is that it will lead directly into Rogue One.
Yeah.
So, It'll be interesting to see. Kevin, I really want you to read this next Easter egg because I put this in here for you because of a special connection this has.
Number 3, Solo, a Star Wars Stories Range Troopers make a return. Range Troopers can be seen walking the hallways in Andor Season 2, Episode 1. The Range Troopers, first seen in Solo, a Star Wars Story, also have an appearance in Andor Season 2. In a true blink and you miss it moment from Episode 1, 2 Range Troopers can be seen walking down the hallway in the facility where Cassian is posing as an Imperial pilot. Don't let it fool you. These aren't snowtroopers. They are a minor difference between the two.
Yeah, and then the one deciding to try to take on the TIE fighter all by himself.
I believe the Range Troopers were the ones. They were a version of them were on the train heist, if I'm remembering.
Yes, I believe that's
right?
where that's where they were from.
Yeah.
So. Okay, next up, you may have heard of the Sonar Advanced Project Lab before. This facility has a connection to another one of Star Wars' best shows. In Episode 1 of Andor Season 2, Cassian is undercover posing as an Imperial pilot in a Sonar test facility. If that name sounds familiar, that's because it is. In Star Wars Rebels, there was a Sonar Advanced Project Lab on Lothal, which served as a design and testing facility for Sonar Fleet Systems, a major Imperial arms supplier. It's good to know that they have chains, even in a galaxy far, far away, Kevin.
Yeah. By the way, I just want to add one real quick one that's not in the notes now. It's more of an observation, but it's kind of an Easter egg, I guess. And the scene where Bix and they're all like eating dinner around the table, there's one of the young children that's playing with a marionette toy. It's a marionette toy of a ATST walker, the one with 2 legs.
There you go. Yeah, Kevin wants one.
Well, one of my 501st costumes is of an ATST driver. So yeah,
we saw more than one type of tie in Andor, though, Kevin.
What? The TIE Strikers were briefly seen in Rogue One. Yet this is yet another connection between the movie and the show. The TIE Strikers make a return to Andor Season 2 after appearing briefly in Rogue One, providing yet another connection between the movie and its spin-off show. The TIE is specifically designed for atmospheric patrols, which is why it's shown flying over Scarif in Rogue One. And if you look at it, the TIE, it's got the wings on the like a TIE Defender or whatever, and they're kind of raised up. And you got the pod of where the the ion engine and the pilot stay, but the wings are raised up, which is kind of cool. It kind of looks like a bird in a way if you look at it that way. It's really neat.
So basically, what we're learning here is the Empire just basically has the TIE fighter is basically just a pod that comes with adaptable wings.
Exactly. Yes.
Kevin, I'm sorry, but I gotta have you read this next Easter egg because it's Indiana Jones related.
There's another Indiana Jones reference in Luthen's gallery following a pattern from Season 1. There seems to be an Indiana Jones Easter egg in Season 2. Following the Indiana Jones Easter eggs in Andor Season 1, Andor Season 2 seems to include a shot of one of the fake Holy Grails from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. I'm trying to look at it in the picture there. Oh, I see where it is. The cup can be seen in Luthen's gallery where the previous Indiana Jones Easter eggs were also shown. I love that.
Now, Kevin, this last piece of trivia I threw in because all of our friends who did get the chance to go to the Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel before it closed, including our good friend Matt Clifton, who fell in love with the place. But Andor Season 2 has a surprising number of Galactic Star Cruiser Galaxy's Edge Easter eggs. It was chock full of them, in fact. Andor Season 2 references to Disney's Galactic Star Cruiser and to the Disney Park Galaxy's Edge in Episode 1 and 2. Here's some of the things we were spotted. Scanning devices that make the same sound as the Halcyon Bridge. Chandrilla's blue and gold traditional colors coming from the Halcyon. Of course, the Halcyon was the hotel, the ship that you were on. Circular imagery and architecture inspired by the Halcyon. Holoprojectors that look like the ones in the interrogation room in Galaxy's Edge Rise of the Resistance ride. Chandrillian music derived from the Galactic Star Cruiser's instrumentals. And food and utensils similar to those used on the Galactic Star Cruiser or seen in Galaxy's Edge. So is he sneaking a few things in there for them?
Yeah, I don't know if anyone will be allowed to. I wonder if there was like a full video walkthrough of Halcyon and stuff like that, so people can kind of see what was briefly around, and what people like Matthew Clifton got to see. So.
Well, guys, that is going to wrap up our Easter eggs and trivia. So we're going to get into a little bit more of our in-depth topics for these episodes of Andor. Yes, we are continuing our coverage of Andor Season 2 with the first 3 episodes 1 year later, Sagrona Teena and Harvest. We're going to get into some of our more detailed plot points here, Kevin, and I've got a couple I wanted to hit with you, and we talked a little bit about this off mic, and we've even mentioned it in the show. Did we get enough Andor in the first arc of Andor was cast in several key storylines going? Did we actually get enough of Cassian Andor in the first arc of the season? A lot of time was spent in several different areas. Was this the right call, or are we at the point where we should be spending a little bit more time with Cassian himself?
You know, it's interesting you say that, because when he's stranded on the planet with that bickering tribe, right? I thought there was going to be a moment, because he's kind of observing, he's keeping quiet, you know, he's not saying, and obviously he's not telling them how he flew the ship. So, and then you got the two tribes, and then you got the tribes that split off into two because they're bickering with each other. I kind of almost feel there's a moment where he could have stepped up as a leader and united them. Did you get that feeling at all?
I felt like you could have seen that, but where we are at with Cassian right now, he's not in that place. He really didn't get that place till later on. But you could just tell, I was just waiting for I was waiting for somebody else to show up to cause havoc. But you could just see what was so great, and this is why I was kind of hoping they would spend a little more time here, is watching Cassian and watching Diego Luna as Cassian. Just observe and learn and put the puzzle pieces together of his situation. He's so good at that, and yet he knows he's in this crap situation. Yet he's constantly trying to be one step ahead of everybody. Of course, in this case, it wasn't that hard, probably.
Yeah, it feels like we didn't see much of him, because you have obviously the whole thing going on with Mon Mothma, and you know, everyone involved around her, and then you got like Cyril and Deidre, and you know, the Imperials on that side, and then you got the people that escaped Ferrix, you know, and they're they're on the wheat fields and stuff. So, but it's interesting though, because all of them have an interest in Andor in one way or another, you know, because they're still hunting Andor, you know, the Imperials. And he's having a communication. He didn't get to meet the guy that he was supposed to have a rendezvous with, and so he has to be careful about communication. But then he arrives just in time to save most people, I guess. And you know, he obviously killed a bunch of the Imperials, and so it's like, it feels like we didn't get enough of him, but I feel like we got just enough, because you really have to set up the story arc of the other characters, because they're going to intertwine with him sooner or later. But I get where you're coming from, because I felt like, I could use a little more of him.
I could have cut a few minutes of the wedding stuff out to get a little bit more Andor in there. I'm just saying. That's just me personally, but let's get into topic 2, and this is where things are going to get a little bit more serious here, guys, because Andor episode 3 may have went to the darkest place Star Wars has ever gone. And I'm pulling a little bit here from an article from Screen Rant. In Andor season 2, episode 3, Bix becomes the very first Star Wars character to utter the word rape on screen. And it's because she's just survived a rape attempt by an Imperial officer. In the scene, Bix is cornered by the officer who had already come onto her before. In this final interaction, though, things escalate with the officer backing Bix against the wall as she begs him to stop. Thankfully, Bix then shoves the officer away and fights back, ultimately killing him in their physical fight with one another. This scene truly makes Star Wars history in the darkest way, but it's such an important scene. There are many other moments throughout Star Wars in which rape or sexual assault are implied, sometimes heavily so, but there has never been one that has directly depicted a rape attempt in this way, nor has the word rape ever been used on screen in the franchise. It is particularly meaningful that this happened in the context of Andor, a show that is meant to capture the brutal realities of the war against fascism. I'm going to stop there from the article for a second, Kevin, because I really want you to weigh in on some of your thoughts about this.
You know what's interesting? When I first watched that, I didn't think twice of it. Oh, Star Wars has gone dark. Oh no, I can't believe I'm seeing this in Star Wars. I never came to my mind. My wife and I are watching, and I got my wife to watch Andor because it's a little bit darker. It's not as cookie cutter, and I think she enjoys it a little bit more than like the other stuff. She did watch some of The Mandalorian, but she's not the biggest fan as I am. So I didn't really think twice about it. To me, it was just showing just a tip of the iceberg of the horrors that the Empire does on people around the galaxy, and this is something that I'm sure goes on, and I feel like this was mentioned before, maybe Legends or something like that, where stuff like this is happening.
Well, Kevin, let me stop you for a second right there because you mentioned that. Let me continue with what some of the stuff from the article says. Although this is a first of its kind seen in Star Wars movies and shows, this story actually bears a striking resemblance to a scene in Legends. In the Star Wars Rebellion series of comics written by Brandon Badeau and Rob Williams, an Imperial officer named Traeger tried to sexually assault Rasha Bex, a former Imperial agent who'd become a rebel sympathizer. Similar to Bix in Andor, Bex was able to fight Traeger off, although she didn't kill him directly like Bix did. Traeger did die in the end. The name.
Sorry. Go ahead.
The names alone suggest the similarities between these two stories are no accident or coincidence, given Bix and Bex are nearly identical. Likewise, the plot points in this arc of the Rebellion comics and in Andor Season 2, Episode 3 follow very similar beats. Presumably, this legend story had a direct influence on this surprising arc in Andor Season 2. The decision to include this scene in Andor is nevertheless a shocking one, though, as depicting a moment like this on screen is a different matter entirely.
So I saw, so like I said, it went by me like, this didn't bother me. And Andor is more realistic and more darker. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of us like this show. It's giving us a different angle. It's the PG-13 or almost R version, of Andor or Star Wars in general. But it wasn't until I saw some people in some Star Wars groups and online going, we don't need that in Star Wars, or I can't believe it went there. And people seem shocked and distraught by this. I can't believe they did this. And, so I'm like, really, I could see why people would say that. But for me, it didn't affect me that way because I've watched so many dramas where we see this type of crime happen. But, what I like about this though is that she fights back and she ends up killing him, and it's not the same thing with Leia getting back at Jabba. We didn't all we saw Jabba do is do a kind of a gross lick or attempted lick on Leia, but she got him back. But I know Tony Gilroy has gone on to kind of, I guess, defend this scene. There's an article on Entertainment Weekly. And I just pulled it up here because I didn't have it ready though. But Gilroy said he says it's yet another example of the brutal realism of this series. I mean, it's a real thing. Gilroy tells Entertainment Weekly, it's been a real thing throughout history. Do you have your papers? And if you don't have your papers, I mean, God, man, in the creator's eyes, not telling this story would be ignoring the atrocities that have been perpetrated for generations. The history of civilization is rape, Gilroy says. We're all products of rape. And if you watch any war film, it happens, and unfortunately, it's a true course of thing. And he wanted to showcase that and what the Empire is truly capable of. Unfortunately, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's very important in the fact that we know Andor is a darker show, and they're willing to push the envelope. It didn't really register for me as I was watching, but afterwards, and especially seeing some of the reactions online and how people were reacting, I can understand it a little bit because people still have a certain mindset about Star Wars. And I think even though knowing this show is a little bit darker and a little bit more on edge, that's a pretty serious subject. You're probably still watching this with your kids, maybe. And so I think the surprise of it. And Kevin, we talked a little bit about this even too with Disney.
Should there have been a warning, you think, at the beginning of the episode?
I think there should have been. I really do. I think just because it is Star Wars and kids are going to watch it. And I mean, I'm not this isn't trying to silence the creator or the creative mind. I just think there probably should have been a little bit of something there. But Kevin, we have talked about this too on True Believers when we talked about Daredevil and how violent Daredevil was. And the envelopes Disney is allowing to happen with these shows now, I think, are very interesting, and it's something that bears watching. But I think this was, like you said, Kevin, we're at a time where we're showing how evil the Empire is, and most people's definition of evil includes a lot more realistic things like this, not just what's going on within the Empire. Like, oh, it's Darth Vader, he's the bad guy. It's the Emperor, he's the bad guy. We're seeing the underbelly, and the underbelly is ugly.
And to be honest with you, I want to see this. I want to see them pushing the envelope on it. It's not that I want to see rape. No, that's not what I want to see. Them include all of the atrocities that they do. And I feel like, the Gorman massacre, if they really show this is going to be intense. But unfortunately, this is stuff that we need to show why the Empire did what it is and how it operates, and why the rebellion grows because of these atrocities and these little things that happen to people. I mean, at the end of this episode, they lose a friend, and Andor is distraught over that, and Bix is rescued, and they were betrayed by a fellow friend that they thought was one of their own, and so you get a little bit of all of that in this. And but I just like the fact that Bix was able to fight back and kill that guy.
Yeah. No, it was an intense scene for sure, but I think if you're going to do it, Andor was the place to do it. But Kevin, you have a couple things you want to talk about, including maybe the breakout couple of Andor.
Yeah, I want to talk about Cyril and Deidre. This, so I didn't rewatch Andor season 1. I didn't realize that they ended up together, or I guess we find out, right? And
it was kind of implied, but I mean,
but. This takes place, a year or two later. I'm guessing. I don't remember the exact timeline, but I like the fact that we got a couple. This is great. I mean, it's weird because Cyril is basically whipped by his mother, and he is embarrassed by her and that side of the family. But he obviously has a good job. He's gotten a promotion, and Deidre is on the rise as well. But there's something about Cyril that Deidre likes and supports. And then when Cyril's mother basically demeans him and talks down to him and in those little mother-in-law ways. And if you have one of those mother-in-laws, you know what I'm talking about. I love that moment when like Cyril just like escapes to the bedroom for a little bit, and Deidre just lays it down saying, this is how things are going to go. You're not going to do this. You're not going to do that. Yeah, there's a good picture of the mom right there. And by the way, a great outfit that her mom is wearing, by the way.
I'm not curious about that chocolate fondue or whatever it was they were.
But for some reason, it just made me even extra attracted to Deidre. I mean, she's cute anyway, but the way that she just like laid the law down, you're not going to treat him this way. I'm paraphrasing. I can't remember exactly the way. It's like, and I'm not going to give you a choice in the way this is happening. And Deidre's mom just went, whoa. And I just want to tell you right now, Kyle, the show I've been wanting you to watch and you have not watched it yet, because I know that you're a big fan of Kristen Bell. You've got to watch it. You have watched it. Okay. We haven't maybe talked about it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But this scene reminds me, and this is with Kristen Bell and what's his name? Adam Brody. And she starts dating him, and he's a full-on rabbi, and she's not. And then she meets his family and his mother-in-law in that scene in the
I know exactly which one you're talking about.
She catches the mother-in-law doing something and doesn't spill
she's not supposed to. Let's put it down.
Yeah, there's a little blackmail thing going on right there. Totally reminded me of this scene. I thought it was great. I got to tell you, one of my favorite moments in Andor so far is that scene, that family scene right there. I've seen people saying this is the spin-off show we need.
Oh yeah, Derek, our good friend Derek over at What a Piece of Junk was all in for that. All in for that spin-off show.
Yeah.
No, the only thing I'm going to say about this is, Deidre, be careful what you awaken. Cyril's not exactly the most stable of individuals.
Yeah, he's a cinder box ready to explode. So yeah.
So, Kevin, do you have any other topics you want to bring out, or would you like to jump into some fun moments of Andor?
Let's go to fun moments, on this one.
Okay, well then let's talk about the fun moments of Andor. And Kevin, I know what mine is. It's the opening sequence. It's
Andor, I was going to go there too. Yeah.
It's Andor talking to that young lady who's like trying not to follow all the rules. He's like, you can look at me, it's okay. You can say my name. And then the fact that she's playing up he's really cute and flirting with him and everything like that. And he's kind of just having a laugh on it. And just the comedy of him trying to fly that TIE Avenger in the dock. And that whole chase sequence is just what a way to open a show. And that's one of the reasons why I was like, I need more Cassian in my episodes because I love that scene so much. That's the Andor I want to see more of as well.
It's hard to, we've been using these fun moments for the Star Wars podcast we've been doing with Culture Clash. And, with Andor being so dark, when you define a fun moment, it's more of a fan thing, about certain things. And I just want to say, I love so I'm part of the 501st Star Wars costume group. And as fans, we love Andor because especially of all the different new this is my fun moment here is all the new different types of like Imperial officers and their uniforms and how they're done. Obviously we get a lot of the Navy fleet troopers with the green olive uniform because that's one of my costumes, but we're getting different variances and also of some of the stormtroopers as well. And I love that we're getting these kind of guys that aren't stormtroopers, but they are carrying blasters and they have these little hats with the goggles on them and everything. Just the attention to detail and all of those little things. And again, another shout out to the costume designers in the show and the whole wedding ceremony thing. That's my fun moment. Just fantastic.
I agree with you.
Mon Mothma Raven, there you go.
Yeah, exactly. I really don't feel like we have a bomb it from orbit because we covered the heaviest subjects in our topics. Yeah. So I think for now, guys, we're going to wrap up our Andor coverage here, but we're not quite done on Culture Clash because we've seen a few things as well besides Andor. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to say, buy it, stream it, or unsee it. That's right. It's time for a little buy it, stream it, or unsee it. And, we haven't had a Culture Clash in a little bit because we were doing coverage of Daredevil, which took place at Culture Clash while we covered that. But for you, those a reminder, this is our review segment. We talk about things we've seen, what we're excited about, whether we choose to buy it because we love it so much. It's good. Maybe not. I don't know if I'm putting my money down on it. So I'll stream it. Or, God, can I just make this not exist anymore? Kind of how Michael Morris feels about the second Pacific Rim film, which will always be our prime example of unseeing it. But we did see a few things. First, Kevin, Lacey's not here, but we did put some love to Letterboxd, our great friends over there. You and Lacey have been keeping track of your films. Lacey's at a convention this week in Huntsville, Alabama, having a blast with our good friend Alex. But Kevin, we haven't updated this in a while. Where are you at for 2025 in your Letterboxd movie count?
Yeah, I've been keeping track of all the movies I've been watching with Letterboxd, and right now through almost the end of April, I'm at 163, and I feel like I'm a little behind in my the previous year, and a lot of it has to do with the television that Aaron and I have been watching, and we've been watching a lot of good television that's been on, and of course anything Taylor Sheridan we're watching. Like we just finished watching this season of last season of 1923, which is fantastic. But also Last of Us has just started as well, and we've really been getting into Mobland. And after I do this podcast, we're actually going to go watch the newest episode of Mobland and then the premiere of Last of Us tonight. And I've been kind of dabbling into some other stuff as well. I've been still kind of jumping into on watching some episodes, of course, season 1 of Stargate, because I've been wanting to do that. And I actually went and what did I watch? I watched the first few episodes of Bridgerton because I was kind of curious about that show. And I just watched Brett Goldstein's comedy special on Max.
Yeah, I want to watch that.
Yeah, of course, most people know him, of course, through Ted Lasso, but he also has a reoccurring role on Shrinking as well, which I highly recommend, also on Apple Plus. And so I've been doing a lot of other specials and stuff like that. I've been doing, still watching movies, of course, for Time Warp and other stuff. But so I feel like I'm a little behind, but that's all right. We've been having a lot of fun on TV.
And just for our listeners out there, don't worry, we're not forgetting about The Last of Us. The first 2 episodes are out. They've been phenomenal. But we're going to wait because our good friend John Mosby, who is a huge Last of Us fan, we're going to do some Last of Us specials. So don't worry, we are going to be covering Last of Us. I'm just going to say the first 2 episodes have been phenomenal. I know that episode 2 had a big shock in it for those of you who have never played the games before. And it's going to be interesting to see how things go from here. But it's one of the best shows on television. And Kevin, I need to pat myself on the back just for a second, because I a few weeks ago in Culture Clash talked about the HBO show The Pit and how much I was enjoying that. And since then, the rest of the world has got on board with me, and the love for The Pit has become major. I know our good friend Jennifer, it was raving about it. She binge watched.
Yeah, she started watching it.
If you have not watched The Pit yet, and you especially are a fan of ER, Noah Wiley, or even 24, you need to go watch The Pit. It is phenomenally, and it is so well done, and the cast is fantastic.
So my wife marathoned it. I watched, I think, the first episode, but she's been watching it while I've been at work and stuff. So that's been kind of her watch. And then she's hooked on it. And then she got my friend Jennifer on it. And then Jennifer did a deep dive. And if you're a fan of The Pit, this guy who is a doctor started doing these YouTube videos talking about each episode, but showing the realism of it, or whether they either made a mistake or whatever. And we actually listened to the audio version of it on a road trip yesterday. It was fascinating. This guy knew his stuff.
Yeah, very cool. But let's get into some of the movies we've seen recently. And Kevin, you and I, the first movie we're talking about is one we were both very excited about, and we have seen it. That is Sinners, the new Ryan Coogler, Michael B. Jordan film. You put Ryan Coogler on my screen, directed by Ryan Coogler, I'm in. When you team him up with Michael B. Jordan, that is a first day must-watch film. And Sinners is no exception to that. This movie was phenomenal, Kevin.
I enjoyed it. My wife enjoyed it too. I took her to go see it. She was kind of curious about it. And Michael B. Jordan was fantastic, playing twin brothers who come back to town. Well, so vampires come into town, and I'm not going to give away too much. Just go see it. I love the tie to the blues music, and the fact that we got a cameo of Buddy Guy, who plays an older version of one of the characters in this. But my question to you, Kyle, real quick, without spoiling anything, if you could have a prequel of the brothers or a kind of sequel with one of the brothers later on, what would you want?
I think I'd want the prequel, because I think the story of what happens to them in Chicago, and this isn't spoiling anything, I think it's very fascinating. Plus, I just don't know if Michael B. Jordan could get himself to do it, because he was so phenomenal in this role playing these twins, but I can't imagine what his shooting schedule was like doing this. I mean, this
yeah.
But he is so good in this as these two brothers, you literally forget it's the same actor playing these brothers. That's how good he is in this.
Yep, because each one had its own little quirk and style in it. So yeah.
But I would be remiss two things about this movie. Truthfully, the vampire aspect of it almost takes a back seat, because the story of these two brothers and what they're doing and the day they're having is so fascinating and pulls you in so much that the vampire aspect of this movie does kind of take a back seat, which is surprising, but it's in a good way. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And I will say this, they have a lot of fun with one of the biggest vampire rules out there. And I think they do a great job with that. But I would also be remiss, the young man who is making his movie debut in this, who plays the blues singer in this. He's a legitimate blues singer himself. He's 20 years old, Kevin. This kid is going to be a star, whether he's acting or singing, because he has got immense talent in both.
Yeah, he's fantastic in this. Great debut.
I will just, for people out there, you definitely need to stay through the credits on Sinners, at least through the first half of the credits. Very, very important you do that. But this is a buy it without question. This is go see it in the theater again if I get the chance. I mean, that's how much I enjoyed this movie. But Kevin, I'm assuming from what you're saying, buy it for you as well.
Yes, definitely buy it.
Okay, well, next up is a movie I haven't got a chance to see it now. But here's the thing. It's actually based off a remake of a 1980s film, which I have seen because it was one of my parents' favorite movies. And it's a movie called The Amateur. And we have a remake of it starring Rami Malek and Lawrence Fishburne. Kevin, you have seen both versions. So I'm really interested in your takes here.
Yeah, so we actually covered the original Amateur, which came out in 1981 when we did our 1981 Time Warp back in 2021, because it was all those movies in 81 were celebrating its 40th anniversary. And that movie starred John Savage, Christopher Plummer, and Martha Keller. And it's basically about a guy, and the same plot here in The Amateur, the new one that just came out starring Rami Malek and Lawrence Fishburne, and John Barenthal, by the way. It's basically about a guy who works for the CIA type job and is really good at his job with in Rami Malek's thing. He's one of the guys that does threat analysis. He's really good with computers and closed circuit television and following digital trails and stuff like that. And in both of these movies, his wife is killed, and there's a bunch of kind of red tape and stuff that people aren't, and he provides all of the evidence like, this is the bad guys. These are the people who did it. But for one reason or another, they are not going out directly and trying to get the actual people that did it. There's red tape, there's delays because they're trying to get other people more important, blah, blah, blah. So Rami Malek, just like in the original one with John Savage, is he basically uses his own skills and basically learns some Spy 101 from Lawrence Fishburne, so to speak, but then he takes it to another level. And it's a great kind of romp around Europe, trying to find people and him getting his revenge on the players of it and stuff like that. And he does a really good job in this. And there's some great location shots in this. For me, I would definitely say for me, it's a buy it. But if you're not sure, definitely stream it when it comes out. I was a fan of the original film and the concept of the guy that's not like the super spy, but he gets a little bit of help and he uses his skills to exact his own type of revenge.
Yeah, I'm a big Rami Malek fan. I love Lawrence Fishburne. I love the original film. I have every intent of going to see this, especially now that my schedule is going to start freeing up a little bit, catch up on a few films. But I'm very excited about this. I love the concept of the original. It seems like they executed very well on this. So it's definitely, for me right now, it's at a stream it stage because I haven't seen it yet. But this is on my must watch list. So I'm excited for that. Kevin, I have a question for you. How many movies does Jason Statham make in a month? Because he's got another one out.
Yeah, this I saw this a little while ago. This is The Working Man from the director of Suicide Squad and The Beekeeper. I think it's David Ayers, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. David Ayers also did the Brad Pitt World War II movie Fury about the tank commander. I've been wanting Statham to kind of have his own, I guess, franchise other than the Transporter. And I really liked his last film, The Beekeeper. And this is kind of a similar plot where he's like a guy who wants to does justice against a certain type of criminal. But in The Beekeeper, he goes against those marketing firms that steal money from the elderly by getting into their bank accounts digitally and siphoning all their funds and stuff, like getting rich that way. This one, he gets back at sex traffickers. A friend of his daughter is kidnapped, and he chases them down and stuff like that. I almost feel it's the same. Jason Statham, and he's fun. He kind of plays the same guy and everything, but you like the guy that he plays, And I kind of wish this was just called Beekeeper 2, and
which they are making.
yeah, which is weird, but I love David and these films that he does, and there's some cool stuff. But I'm not sure if I would buy this one. I bought The Beekeeper. I would give this one more of a streamer. I may get it on physical media. I'm not sure yet, but definitely it's worth a stream if you like Jason Statham. There's some really interesting scenes in this, and of course, tackling sex trafficking is always one of those ones where you'd love to see the good guys take it to the bad guys. So yeah.
Real quick, I want to throw out a TV series I started watching, because it's coming from the anime corner of things, Kevin. One of my all-time favorite animes is an anime called Cowboy Bebop. It's
Cowboy Bebop, yeah, Betty.
One of the classics of all time. He's done a couple other shows since then, Samurai Champloo, Space Dandy. Well, the creator of Cowboy Bebop's newest show has arrived, and after a long anticipation for it, it's a show called Lazarus. And you can find this streaming.
Did you say Lazarus?
Lazarus.
Okay.
Yes. You can find it streaming on Hulu. You can find it streaming on HBO Max. You can find it streaming on Crunchyroll. You can even buy it off of iTunes if you want to buy the season. I've watched the first 3 episodes. I am thoroughly enjoying this show. It's got the animation style of Bebop and a little bit of the music, but I just want to give people the general concept of this, because I think this is where the hook on it. It's sometime in the future, not too far in the future, but in the future, a scientist developed this drug that is the ultimate painkiller. It takes away any pain, and everybody gets hooked on it. Well, the scientist disappears, and then all of a sudden he appears on a YouTube video after about a year of being missing, coming out saying it's almost the 3-year anniversary of the release of this drug. In 30 days, the first people who started taking the drug will die, and anybody who's taking the drug from that point forward, after when they hit their 3-year mark of first taking the drug, will die. The only way to get the cure is to find me. So what Lazarus is about is the story of trying to find this scientist, and it focuses on this team that's kind of brought together, kind of like, think of it more like a Mod Squad or Mission Impossible team, where they all have a little questionable background and they've been brought together. The main character, he's a well-versed fighter, kind of in the Spike Spiegel mold out of Cowboy Bebop. He committed a petty crime, and he got addicted to breaking out of prisons. And so now his sentence is like 888 years because he gets bored and breaks out of all the prisons they put him in.
You're not giving away the whole plot, are you here, dude?
No. I'm just trying to get. So you've got this group of. The problem is that you're only 3 episodes in, so there's a lot more to the mystery. But if you're a fan of Cowboy Bebop, even if you're not a huge anime fan, but you love Bebop or you love Samurai Champloo, go check out Lazarus. Each episode's about a half an hour, like I said, and there's a lot of places you can find it. It's on Hulu, it's on HBO Max, Crunchyroll. Definitely get a check out. It's, like I said, it's got some of that classic Bebop animation style to it, and it's got great music in it as well. So check out Lazarus. But with that, guys, let's wrap up this episode. I've been reading comics again. Let's wrap up this episode of Culture Club. First of all, Kevin, it's always great to be back on The Clash with you. We had a little break because we were covering Daredevil via True Believers, but we're back here for Andor. It's been fun talking Andor. I'm glad to be back on The Clash talking about everything that's happening in fandom. So I'm glad you're not too clowny.
Had a great trip. It was good way to celebrate our anniversary.
And of course, you are watching Culture Clash on the Fandom Podcast Network YouTube channel. But if you want the audio version, guys, scan the QR code on your screen. It'll take you to our audio homepage at fpnet.podbean.com, and you can find all the great shows on the Fandom Podcast Network audio-wise. And if you are watching on YouTube, we appreciate it so much. Please make sure to give us a like, a share, and a subscribe. We appreciate all the support all the way around. And this is the Fandom Podcast Network, where we're trying to constantly feed your ears with great things that are happening in fandom. We talked about some of the great shows we have earlier in this episode of Culture Clash. And you can find us all over the place on social media, including Blue Sky, our newest location, at FanPod Network on Blue Sky. You can find me on Blue Sky at AKyleW, as well as on Twitter at AKyleW, and on Instagram at AKyleFandom, and that also works for Threads. Kevin, you are all over the social media. You are Mr. Social Media. I'm just going to hand it to you. Where can people find you on the socials?
You can, of course, find me on X, Instagram, Threads, Discord, and Letterboxd at Spartan Phoenix, and on Blue Sky at Spartan Phoenix. And also, again, follow Fandom Podcast Network on X and Instagram, and as you mentioned, Blue Sky. So, yeah, check us out.
We are all over the place. I can't keep track of it anymore. So many places. But speaking of all over the place, TeePublic. We got a great store on TeePublic. Kevin's sporting the hoodie over there. Must be a little chilly out in California.
Yeah, what's funny is both my wife and I put on the same hoodie. She also has this Fandom Podcast Network black hoodie with the logo on the front. So we were twinsies today.
Wait a minute. When you first said you put on the same hoodie, I figured, how are you fitting Aaron and you into that hoodie? That needs to know it's your anniversary, but you know what? By the way, I got to say that too. Happy anniversary to Kevin and Aaron. They just celebrated their
Thank you, sir.
third already. That doesn't seem possible, but I hope it was egg and alien filled.
We definitely had some fun with that. Yeah.
But our TeePublic store, go to TeePublic, search for the Fandom Podcast Network or any of the great shows on the Fandom Podcast Network, and you will find our gear, whether it's t-shirts, hoodies like Kevin's wearing. I've got a pillow back behind me. I've got mugs. We've got hats. We've got phone cases, laptop cases, all kinds of stuff on TeePublic. In fact, I think they have a sale going right now. They usually have 1 or 2 a month, but we get a little kickback here to help keep the lights on and keep the kaiju in the basement fed because he gets a little grumpy sometimes. But
yes,
we do what we can around here. But we want to thank you guys so much for your support. And also, again, just a reminder too, if you want more Andor coverage, check out our official Star Wars podcast that covering all things Star Wars and covering all things Andor Season 2. What a piece of junk, where the guys on the Drunken Gungan give you all their thoughts on the happenings of Andor and everything else that is happening in the Star Wars universe. In fact, their most recent episode covered everything that happened at Star Wars Celebration. So check it out. And of course, this is Culture Clash, and we will be continuing our coverage of Andor through over the next 4 weeks as 3-episode arcs drop. And I'm excited, Kevin. Spy stuff's going to happen. Bad things are going to happen. But we're gonna maybe have some of the best Star Wars we've had in a long time.
And just a reminder too, stay tuned for the Fandom Podcast Network and True Believers. We're going to be giving our instant reactions to the new Marvel film Thunderbolts.
Asterix,
yes.
I am excited for Thunderbolts. It's maybe the biggest Marvel movie I've been excited for this year, and even the last couple. To be honest with you, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm getting a lot of Guardians of the Galaxy vibe from it. I'm going to go see it Thursday night, but our reaction show will be out next week. We've got a ton of content about to drop on the network over the next week too, guys. So hang on for the ride. I want to thank everybody out there for listening. Thank you to Kevin for being here as always and riding on the show with me. And
thank you, sir. Good to be back.
Most importantly, as we like to close out here, respect each other and enjoy your fandom. Guys, we have done this thing. We are out of here.